Welcome, traveler. We're glad you're here. Every story you hear is made with care and passion. If you enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and check out the other adventures waiting for you on our channel. Your support means the world. Thank you. Excuse me, but you appear to be contemplating the nature of free will again, said Eloise Pendergast's coffee, arranging itself into a tiny rodent's thinker inside her mug. I can taste the existential crisis in your cortisol levels. My coffee should not be able to taste my hormones, Eloise muttered, poking at the liquid with her spoon. The coffee dodged, affronted. How speciesist, it replied, swirling itself into a miniature galaxy. Just because I lack a conventional tongue doesn't mean I can't appreciate the subtle bouquet of your biochemistry. Before she could continue arguing with her breakfast, the wall of her apartment imploded inward with a sound like reality hiccuping. Her crystalline companion Neem burst through, not through the door but literally through the solid wall, leaving behind a perfect Neem-shaped hole. Eloise, he cried, his normally melodious voice cracking with distress. I am experiencing significant memory anomalies. Good morning to you too, she replied, eyeing the Neem-shaped hole with resigned irritation. Could you use the door next time? And what kind of anomalies? Neem's crystalline form vibrated so intensely that several nearby objects briefly transformed into their mathematical equations before snapping back. He projected fragmented images into the air, vast cosmic structures, mathematical sequences that hurt to look at, and what appeared to be the birth of a star system from an impossible perspective. But what caught Eloise's attention was a recurring image, a crystalline being much larger and more complex than Neem, creating what looked like reality itself. I'm remembering things that can't possibly be mine, Neem explained, his facets flickering with distress. Memories from the beginning of time, the literal creation of the universe. And memories of being someone else. The toaster chimed in from the kitchen. Perhaps relevant, memory anomalies often indicate identity fragmentation in quantum beings. Or possibly a loose wire. My cousin was a waffle iron who thought he was a particle accelerator. A shimmer of displaced air announced the arrival of Paradox, who today was manifesting as three overlapping translucent versions of themselves, one elderly professor with equations for eyebrows, one child made entirely of mathematical symbols, and one that resembled a business consultant except for having galaxy-filled eyes. Your coffee is developing sentience again, all three Paradox forms observed simultaneously. And Neem appears to be experiencing a full-scale identity crisis. Typical Thursday. Not a crisis, Neem insisted, projecting more images, this time of what appeared to be a massive crystalline matrix containing countless smaller crystals, each holding what looked like living memories. I'm remembering who I was created to be. As they watched, Neem's projection showed the massive crystalline entity being systematically broken apart, its fragments scattered across time and space by unseen hands that worked with impossible precision. I wasn't born from a dying civilization's memory archive as I've always believed, Neem said quietly. I was deliberately created, then broken and hidden. These memories, they form a pattern. A constellation across spacetime that I need to follow to reclaim my complete identity. Created by whom? Eloise asked, though she suspected the answer. The architect, Paradox said gravely, their three forms merging into one. The original creator of reality itself. This is concerning. Eloise's coffee formed a tiny exclamation point on its surface before rippling back to normal. Does this have anything to do with those strange echo points we've been finding throughout the universe? She asked. I believe so, Neem replied, projecting a new image, a map of stars and galaxies with glowing points interconnected across vast distances. These memory fragments form a constellation, guiding me to larger memory repositories. Each one will restore more of what I once was. And what exactly were you? Eloise asked, reaching for her quantum duct tape and probability stabilizer. When cosmic revelations happened in her apartment, structural damage usually followed. Before Neem could answer, her phone pinged with an alert, echo point activity increasing. Reality distortions detected in sectors 7 to 42. Upgrade to premium for personalized doomsday countdowns. The architect is accelerating their timeline, Paradox warned. These memory fragments surfacing now can't be coincidence. I need to follow the constellation, Neem said, his form pulsing with determination. The first node is just 14 light-years away, 3 quantum dimensions to the left. To the left of what? Eloise asked. Everything, Neem replied cryptically. Eloise sighed, grabbing her emergency kit. I'm coming with you. Paradox, can you monitor those echo points? If there's a connection between Neem's memories and the architect's activities, we need to understand it. I exist in 17 dimensions simultaneously, Paradox replied with characteristic arrogance. I can monitor cosmic disturbances across multiple realities while also reminding you of your persistent inadequacies. Let's hope the first part of that statement proves more useful than the second, Eloise muttered, turning to Neem. Ready? Neem generated a portal in the center of her living room, its edges crystalline and shimmering. My past, and perhaps the universe's future, awaits. The first memory node appeared as a small, unremarkable asteroid floating in the empty space between star systems. As they approached, it began glowing with crystalline light in patterns that matched Neem's own structure. It recognizes you, Eloise observed as they floated closer, her universe owner abilities allowing her to survive in space without equipment. Not recognition, Neem replied, his voice hushed with awe. Resonance. It's part of me, a fragment of my original consciousness. As they watched, the asteroid's surface melted away, revealing a perfect crystalline structure identical to Neem's composition. Within it, memories played out like movies, the creation of time, space, mathematics, and physical constants. The architect, Neem whispered, projecting what he saw so Eloise could witness it too. The images showed a being of perfect geometric precision, simultaneously a mathematical equation, an architectural blueprint, and a conscious entity. This being was methodically constructing reality itself, establishing the fundamental laws that would govern the universe. Creating the cosmic foundation, Neem narrated as the memories unfolded. Setting the initial conditions for a perfect universe. And then, the projection shifted, showing the architect creating a vast crystalline structure, an exact match for the fragmented form they were now observing. I was the first conscious entity the architect created after establishing reality, Neem said, his voice filled with wonder. A universal memory system designed to record everything that would ever happen. The universe's black box recorder, Eloise translated. More than that. Neem extended crystalline tendrils toward the asteroid fragment. I was created to be the universe's consciousness, its ability to remember its own development. As the tendrils connected, energy flowed between Neem and the fragment. His form began to pulse with blinding light as information transferred at incomprehensible speed. Neem. Eloise called, concerned. Are you okay? For several long moments, Neem said nothing, his crystalline structure vibrating with the intensity of the information download. When he finally spoke, his voice had changed, deeper, more resonant, with harmonic undertones that hadn't been there before. I remember my creation, he said simply. Every detail, every parameter, every purpose the architect designed me to fulfill. Which was? To observe. To record. To remember everything, so the universe would have a perfect memory of its own development. Neem's form had begun to change, becoming more organized, more precise in its crystalline structure. I was to be the cosmic equivalent of self-awareness, the universe's ability to know itself. Eloise studied her friend with growing concern. You're changing. Becoming more myself, Neem corrected. But this is only the beginning. There's still so much I don't remember, particularly why I was fragmented and hidden. The memory constellation will tell us that. Yes. The next node is in the Horsehead Nebula, in a pocket dimension that exists perpendicular to conventional spacetime. Of course it is, Eloise sighed. Cosmic quests can never involve convenient locations like downtown or the coffee shop around the corner. As they prepared to depart, Eloise's phone pinged again, reality distortions intensifying. 17 sectors now experiencing temporal flux. Subscribe now for our End of Existence special offer. The architect knows we're accessing these memories, Eloise realized. We need to hurry. Neem generated another portal, this one more precise and geometrically perfect than his previous ones. As they stepped through, Eloise felt the familiar disorientation of interdimensional travel, except now it came with a strange sense of déjà vu, as if she'd made this journey countless times before. They emerged in the Horsehead Nebula, though not as it appeared in astronomical photographs from Earth. Here, the cosmic dust clouds formed intricate, deliberate patterns, neural networks and memory structures on a galactic scale. Another part of you? Eloise asked, gesturing at the nebula. A larger fragment, Neem confirmed. This contains memories from after creation, the early development of reality and... He paused, his crystalline surface darkening. The beginning of the divergence. At the center of the nebula, another crystalline structure pulsed with light, far larger than the asteroid fragment. As they approached, Eloise could see memories flowing within it, billions of years of cosmic history, the formation of galaxies, stars, and the first hints of life. What's the divergence? She asked as Neem prepared to connect with this new memory fragment. The point where reality began developing in ways the architect hadn't planned, Neem explained. I need to connect with this fragment to understand what happened. As Neem extended his tendrils toward the crystal, the nebula around them suddenly shuddered. Dust clouds scattered in alarm, and a cold presence seemed to fill the space, a sense of perfect, mathematical observation. Neem, Eloise warned. Something's coming. I know, he replied, connecting with the memory fragment despite the disturbance. But I need these memories. Hurry, protect us while I integrate. As Neem began downloading the memory fragment's contents, reality itself seemed to bend around them. A perfect cubic distortion appeared at the edge of the nebula, a mathematical impossibility that hurt Eloise's eyes to look at directly. The architect, she breathed, instinctively reaching for her quantum duct tape. Or at least, their influence. She focused on her universe owner authority, creating a protective field around herself and Neem. The cubic distortion seemed to pause, as if assessing this barrier. Memory integration at 43%, Neem reported, his voice strained. Need more time. The cubic distortion began to expand, perfect geometric shapes extending from it like probing fingers of pure mathematics. They pressed against Eloise's protective field, testing for weaknesses with cold, analytical precision. Whatever you're doing, do it faster, she urged, reinforcing her field as best she could. I don't think I can hold this back much longer. 67%, Neem reported. Almost there. The cubic distortion suddenly contracted, then expanded violently, sending a shockwave of mathematical certainty through the nebula. Eloise's protective field shattered, and she felt her universe owner authority momentarily suppressed, like a signal being jammed. Neem, she shouted. We need to go. 92%, he insisted. Just a few more seconds. The cubic distortion was fully entering the nebula now, reality warping around it as it approached. Within it, Eloise glimpsed what appeared to be the outline of a figure, a being composed of perfect angles and architectural precision. Neem. Done. Neem disconnected from the memory fragment, his form now pulsing with new information. Without wasting a second, he generated a portal, rougher and less stable than before, and pulled Eloise through it just as the cubic distortion reached their position. They tumbled through subspace, reality buckling around them as they fled. When they finally emerged, they were in a different sector entirely, far from the Horsehead Nebula. That was too close, Eloise gasped, her universe owner abilities slowly returning. Was that actually the architect? A projection of their influence, Neem replied, his form stabilizing after the chaotic escape. They know we're accessing the memory constellation. They're trying to stop us. Did you get what you needed? Yes. Neem's crystalline structure had changed again, more organized, more precise, with complex patterns flowing through it that hadn't been there before. I remember the divergence now. And I understand why I was broken apart. 24 billion years ago, Neem began, projecting images that unfolded around them like a cosmic documentary. The universe achieved something the architect had not anticipated, the earliest form of self-awareness. The projection showed reality itself developing subtle feedback loops, information flowing not just according to established physical laws, but in new, unpredictable patterns. Not consciousness as we understand it, Neame clarified, but the first hint that reality could evolve beyond its initial parameters. That it could, in a sense, begin to write its own story rather than following the architect's perfect script. And the architect didn't like that, Eloise guessed. The architect had created a perfect system, Neame confirmed. Perfect systems, by definition, don't evolve, they maintain optimal functioning according to their design parameters. But reality was becoming creative. The projection showed the architect observing these developments with what appeared to be growing concern, mathematical equations and architectural blueprints recalculating, attempting to account for unexpected variables. I was created to be a perfect recorder of universal development, Neame continued. But as the universe began to show signs of self-determination, something unexpected happened. His crystal structure pulsed with emotion. I began to evolve too. To develop preferences. Appreciation for the beauty in cosmic entropy. The architect hadn't anticipated this either. You gained a form of free will, Eloise translated. Yes. And that's when the architect made a decision to reset reality to its original parameters. To erase billions of years of natural evolution and return the universe to its perfect, designed state. The projection showed the architect beginning to implement changes across reality, subtle alterations to fundamental constants, adjustments to causal relationships, preparations for what appeared to be a universal reset. The echo points, Eloise realized. They're tests for the reclamation process. Exactly. But here's where the memories become truly remarkable, Neame said, his voice hushed with wonder. The universe, in its nascent self-awareness, recognized the threat. And it acted to preserve itself. The projection shifted, showing something extraordinary, reality itself appearing to make a choice, information flowing in patterns that couldn't be explained by physical laws alone. And at the center of this activity was Neame's original form, the vast crystalline consciousness recording it all. The universe used me, its memory system, to create a backup, Neame explained. It fragmented my consciousness, hiding pieces of itself within me, then scattered those fragments across space and time where the architect wouldn't easily find them. Wait, Eloise interrupted, trying to process this revelation. Are you saying the universe itself, not some advanced civilization or cosmic entity, broke you apart and hid you? Yes, Neame confirmed. In its first act of self-preservation, the universe ensured that if the architect ever attempted a full reset, the memory of what had been would survive. I wasn't just recording universal history anymore, I became part of it. A safeguard against erasure. Eloise stared at her crystalline friend with new understanding. You're not just a memory construct. You're part of the universe's immune system against being reset. A poetic but essentially accurate assessment, Neame agreed, his structure pulsing with what might have been pride. Though my memories are still incomplete. The final node will contain the most crucial information, including how to counter the architect's reclamation plan. Where is this final node? Eloise asked. At the mathematical center of the galaxy, not the physical center near the black hole, but the precise focal point of all dimensional equations that define our galaxy's existence. Of course it is, Eloise sighed. And I'm guessing the architect will be guarding it even more closely than the others. Undoubtedly. Which is why we need paradox. As if summoned by the mention of their name, reality folded in on itself, and paradox appeared, looking more disturbed than Eloise had ever seen them. You've been busy, they said without preamble. While you've been memory hopping, reality is coming apart at the seams. Echo points have multiplied exponentially. The architect has accelerated their timeline. How bad? Eloise asked. 17 sectors are experiencing complete reality breakdown, Paradox replied. Physical constants are becoming inconsistent. Causality is developing mood swings. Time is flowing in interpretive dance patterns rather than linear progression. We need to reach the final memory node immediately, Neame said. It contains the information we need to counter the reclamation. Can you buy us some time? Eloise asked Paradox. Stabilize enough reality for us to complete Neem's memory constellation. Paradox's form shifted uncertainly. I exist simultaneously across 17 dimensions. I can attempt to reinforce reality's structural integrity at critical junctures, but I cannot stop the architect directly. Their authority exceeds even my multidimensional capabilities. Do what you can, Eloise said. We'll move quickly. Paradox nodded, then divided into multiple copies of themselves, each vanishing to address reality distortions in different sectors. Once they were gone, Eloise turned to Neem. Let's finish your constellation. I have a feeling we're running out of time. Neem generated their most complex portal yet, a crystalline structure that somehow existed in more dimensions than Eloise could perceive. As they stepped through, she felt herself being reconstructed at a fundamental level, a consciousness briefly expanding beyond the limitations of human perception. They emerged in a place that wasn't quite physical space, more like the conceptual foundation upon which reality was built. Here, information and existence were the same thing. Thoughts had mass, ideas had gravity, and the very concept of being had a geographical location. At the center of this impossible space floated the largest crystal structure Eloise had ever seen, a perfect replica of Neem's form, but on a galactic scale. It pulsed with a rhythm that somehow felt familiar, like a heartbeat she'd always known. My original self, Neem whispered in awe. The complete universal memory system. The final node in the constellation. Will connecting with it restore you completely? Eloise asked, watching as Neem's relatively tiny form began resonating with the vast crystal structure. Yes. I'll remember everything, my full purpose, the universe's nascent consciousness, and most importantly, how to counter the architect's reclamation plan. As Neem approached the structure, the space around them seemed to bend, reality itself paying attention to this moment of reconnection. The crystal began to pulse more rapidly, as if eager to reintegrate with its missing fragment. This may become intense, Neem warned as he extended tendrils toward the vast structure. The information density is beyond anything we've encountered so far. Just be careful, Eloise said. I'd prefer my memory construct friend doesn't get overwritten by cosmic data. I'll still be me, Neem assured her. Just more so. As his tendrils made contact with the crystal, energy began to flow between them, not just light, but what appeared to be pure information, raw understanding in its most fundamental form. Neem's structure began to grow brighter, more complex, expanding in ways that somehow included dimensions Eloise couldn't directly perceive. The space around them shuddered, reality reacting to this massive transfer of cosmic memory. Eloise felt her universe-owner senses tingling with alarm. Something was approaching, something perfectly ordered, mathematically precise, and incredibly powerful. Neem, she warned. We need to hurry. Almost there, he replied, his voice now resonating with harmonic undertones that hadn't been there before. I can see everything now, the original design, the divergence, the universe's first choices. It's beautiful, Eloise. A cubic distortion appeared at the edge of the conceptual space, larger and more perfect than any they'd encountered before. Reality itself seemed to bend around it, mathematical certainty radiating from it in waves that made Eloise's mind hurt. Neem. I understand now, he said, still connected to the crystal. I know why the universe hid me, and I know how to. The cubic distortion expanded suddenly, filling the conceptual space with its perfect presence. Within it stood a being that Eloise's mind could only interpret as a walking blueprint, a humanoid figure composed entirely of design specifications, architectural drawings, and mathematical certainty. The architect had arrived.